Now, I don't see as much of Joe Rogan as I used to before he moved over to Spotify, but from what I am seeing, he seems more based than ever. Now, we are going to get to some video, but first we're going to just take a look at this real quick. Legendary podcast host Joe Rogan mocked former CNN chief media correspondent Brian Stelter this week for being involved with the World Economic Forum, saying he is, quote, basically a prostitute. Well, we've been saying that for years. Says during the Joe Rogan Experience on Monday, Rogan interviewed the journalist who's been at the forefront of the Twitter Files series, Matt TAIBBI. Now, Matt TAIBBI was formerly a darling of the left, and in fact, he wrote a book about the 2016 election called Insane Clown President. But then he committed the mortal sin of questioning the Russia collusion hoax. So what you had was another principled liberal who was excommunicated from the fold. So let's get a look at this video.
Brian Stelter is now at the World Economic Forum. What can we do about these problems?
He looked very comfortable there, didn't he?
Of course he does. He's with evil lizard people that are trying to control the world. That's his bosses. He knows how to handle that kind of situation. I've been around these evil lizard people.
He looked as happy as maybe he's ever been.
Well, he's probably very excited just to be working again in any way, shape, or form.
That's true.
You know, I mean, he's not a guy that really is supposed to be in front of a camera, right? He's supposed to be a journalist, but he's not even good at that. So what he's doing now is holding water for the evil leaders of the world who want to institute hate speech policies nationwide and, you know, centralized digital currency, and they want everybody to eat bugs.
All right, let's take a quick look at the clip that they're referring to, where Brian Stelter is on a panel at the World Economic Forum.
The people who understand the language and the case law in the country, because what qualifies as hate speech, as illegal hate speech, which you will have soon also in the US, I think that...
Yeah, are you really surprised to see Brian Stelter on the same stage as that globalist censorship witch? Anyway, let's continue.
Is holding water for the evil leaders of the world who want to institute hate speech policies nationwide and, you know, centralized digital currency, and they want everybody to eat bugs and you will own nothing and be happy. This is the fucking people he's working for now. Because he's basically a prostitute. And, you know, they hired him to go over there and do that. And he's like, what can we do? What can we do better?
Yeah.
What can we do different to get everybody to stand in line?
Yeah.
What can we do?
And for a journalist to sit there was that one moment where that woman, Vera Jourova, she's an EU official, and she's talking about hate speech laws, and then she touches the knee of somebody sitting next to her and saying, "You're going to have that in America soon."
Yeah.
And Brian Stelter is sitting there grinning. Yeah. You know, like that's not offensive to him. Like a European basically saying, "Oh yeah, you're going to have this too soon." Like even though it's completely antithetical to everything that we believe in this country. Like, you know.
Well, I think when you're working in a corporate news structure, and you could speak to this better than I could, obviously, but I think when you're working in an environment where you have editors and people in your ear, and you have producers, and you have narratives that the company is pushing, and then you have sponsorships that you're beholden to, it's very difficult to form any sort of problematic or controversial independent thought and then try to express it publicly. You're not going to do it. It's just too scary and sketchy. So when you're trying to keep that job, and here's a guy like Brian Stelter who already lost one of the biggest gigs in all of broadcast news. He was on fucking CNN. And then, you know, here he's standing there and they're saying, you're going to have hate speech laws in America too. He's like, okay, everything's running smooth.
Yeah, so I think that perhaps Joe Rogan detests Brian Stelter. Yeah, and there's good reason. Here, CNN's Brian Stelter roasted for complaining about Americans trusting Joe Rogan over his own network. Yeah, people trusting Joe Rogan over CNN is not a condemnation of Joe Rogan. That's a condemnation of CNN. Yeah, if you put out nothing but propaganda, you'll be known as a propaganda network. People go to Joe Rogan because at least they know he's not just outright lying to them. Oh yeah, and there was that little episode where CNN accused Joe Rogan of taking horse dewormer. That when Joe Rogan had talked about taking a drug that starts with the letter I that had been prescribed to him by a doctor, which is also an anti-parasitic drug that has been taken literally billions of times by humans. It's a human drug. Gee, I wonder if it's stuff like this that makes people trust somebody like Joe Rogan over CNN. So if you're going to be Brian Stelter and you're going to be a mouthpiece for the World Economic Forum and apparently an advocate For globalist censorship, you should expect to be mocked and despised. Anyway, please subscribe, like, and share. Sharing really helps me out. I thank you for that. I will see you next time.